They told me I cost too much. I was a subscription service they could cancel. Marcus Webb didn't even look up from his laptop when he said it. Just kept typing while his HR flunky slid the paperwork across the table. I'm Joe Castellano, 49 years old, and after 22 years of keeping military data out of enemy hands, I was getting fired by a guy who still had the sticker on his MBA diploma. I didn't argue, didn't plead, just stood up, dropped my access badge on his keyboard, right on the keys, let him fish it out later, and walked out the front door. 40 hours after that, FBI agents were crawling through the server room, asking why foreign IP addresses were trying to download classified convoy routes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Look, nobody wakes up wanting revenge. You want stability. You want to do good work and get paid fair. But sometimes life hands you a situation where walking away isn't enough. Sometimes you gotta let the fire burn and warm your hands later. I grew up in a house where my old man fixed transmissions for 30 years. Union job, pension, the whole deal. He taught me that expertise matters. That knowing something deeply, really knowing it, that's your armor in this world. I joined the Navy at 19, spent 14 years in information warfare before a roadside bomb outside Fallujah took part of my hearing and ended my active duty. Honorable discharge, full benefits, but I was 33 and starting over. That's how I ended up at Meridian Defense Solutions. Not glamorous, just a beige building in Maryland with fingerprint scanners and a coffee machine that never worked right. But we handled the real stuff. Live satellite feeds from forward operating bases, supply chain encryption for units in hostile territory, the kind of data where one leak means coffins coming home draped in flags. For 8 years I ran their security architecture. Not just me, I had a team. Good people. But I was the one who stayed late when the new zero-day exploits dropped. The one who personally vetted every software patch because I didn't trust automation with lives on the line. My clearance cost the government 18 months and $40,000 to obtain. TSI with full-scope polygraph. You don't replace that with a Zoom call and a contractor from Bangalore. Enter Marcus Webb. 32 years old. Came from some fintech startup where move fast and break things was apparently a virtue. Hired as chief operating officer in January. By March, he was optimizing personnel expenditures. That's corporate speak for finding bodies to throw overboard. The meeting was on a Thursday. I remember because my daughter Elena had texted that morning about her nursing school tuition payment bouncing first time ever. I was already on edge when Marcus's assistant called. 2 p.m. Conference room B. The kind of summons that makes your stomach drop because you know before you know. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. Old habit from the service, never trap yourself in a box you can't escape. The conference room smelled like that fake lemon cleaner and Marcus's cologne. Too much cologne. He was sitting with Vanessa from HR, who wouldn't meet my eyes. That told me everything. Joe, Marcus started, not looking up from his tablet. Thanks for coming. I had a choice. We've been reviewing operational costs across divisions. Your department represents significant overhead. $138,000 annually, plus clearance maintenance, plus training allocations. He finally looked at me. Smiled this consultant smile he'd probably practiced in mirror. We're pivoting toward a more agile operational model, offshore partnership with Global Tech Solutions, Costa Rica-based, excellent credentials, reduces our security spend by 62%. I didn't react immediately. Learned that in the Navy. Let the silence work. 62%, I repeated. That's specific. Marcus's smile flickered. He wanted me to argue, to get emotional so he could be the reasonable one. Vanessa, could you give us a moment? She practically ran for the door. Coward. Joe, I know this is difficult, Marcus continued, leaning forward with his faux concern expression. But the reality is, cybersecurity has become commoditized. Cloud-based solutions, AI monitoring, automated response protocols. Your traditional approach is simply no longer cost competitive. Traditional approach. That's what he called 22 years of keeping secrets safe. I thought about my father, dead 5 years now, buried in his Union jacket. I thought about Elena, working double shifts at the hospital to cover what her scholarships didn't. I thought about the promise I made my wife before the aneurysm took her that our girl would never carry student debt into her adult life. These offshore personnel, I said, keeping my voice flat. They hold active DOD clearances? Because our contracts require vetted U.S. persons with background investigations completed within the last 5 years. Marcus waved his hand. Details. Legal can work those out. Global Tech has government relationships. They'll have provisional access within 48 hours. Provisional access. He said it like he was talking about a gym membership trial. Not like he was suggesting giving foreign nationals the keys to active military intelligence. I stood up, walked to the window. The parking lot below looked normal. People coming back from lunch. Nobody knew the building was about to become a crime scene. Marcus, I said, still facing the window, you ever been to Dover, the Air Force Base? Watch them unload the transfer cases? I have. 3 times. Because someone got careless with classified information. Because someone thought security was just another line item to optimize. I turned around. You're not just firing me. You're dismantling safeguards that exist because people died learning why they mattered. In just a second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Doubt, maybe. Or just calculation about how this conversation would play in litigation. Then the mask came back. Emotional appeals don't change fiscal reality, Joe. Your position is eliminated. Effective immediately. Security will escort you to collect personal items. I laughed. Actually laughed, which threw him. Nobody laughs at termination. Sure, Marcus. Let's do this properly. I didn't have much in my desk. Picture of Elena at her white coat ceremony. Challenge coin from my first deployment. A coffee mug with a chip in the handle that I'd never replaced because it still worked fine. I left the technical documentation, the network topology maps, the handwritten notes about system quirks that weren't in any official manual, which servers ran hot, which backup protocols had timing issues, which authentication sequences needed human verification versus automated. Let them figure it out, or not. Walking out, I stopped by Danny Chen's cubicle. Danny was 26, sharp, hungry to learn. I'd been mentoring him for a year, teaching him the difference between textbook security and real-world protection. He looked up, saw my cardboard box, went pale. Joe, keep your head down next few weeks, I said, quiet. Whatever happens with the new arrangement, don't volunteer for anything related to Operation Sentinel. Don't touch those systems. Don't ask questions. Don't even acknowledge you know the name. Danny's eyes widened. He knew Sentinel was above his clearance. What's happening? Corporate decided to outsource national security to the lowest bidder. When it blows up, and it will, you don't want your credentials anywhere near the blast radius. Document everything you do. Every email, every ticket, every conversation. Paper trail saves careers. I didn't say goodbye to anyone else. Didn't want the scene, just walked out into the March afternoon, box under my arm, 22 years of service reduced to a severance package that would cover 4 months of Elena's tuition if I stretched it. Here's the thing about expertise. It doesn't disappear just because someone stops paying for it. I spent that first evening in my garage workshop, fixing a motorcycle I didn't even ride anymore, just to keep my hands busy. Around 11, my personal phone buzzed. Number I didn't recognize, but the alert tone I'd coded that myself 3 years back. Custom notification for the Meridian Emergency Monitoring System. I'd built backdoors. Every competent security chief does, not for malice. For exactly this situation, when systems fail, and they always fail, someone needs to see what's happening. The alert read unauthorized administrative access attempt, source IP 196, 52, X geolocation, San Jose, Costa Rica. I put down my wrench, opened my laptop, navigated to the secure monitoring interface I'd maintained on a separate network segment. The camera feeds loaded slowly. Residential internet, not the fiber I used to have, but they loaded. Server room lights strobing red, not emergency red, lockdown red. The automated defense systems had triggered, which meant someone had tried something very stupid. I pulled up the access logs. Someone using the credentials Marcus had issued to Global Tech had attempted to install remote desktop software on a classified workstation, consumer-grade software, the kind teenagers use to fix their grandparents' email. Then they tried to modify firewall rules. Then they attempted to access the Sentinel partition directly without the proper authentication sequence. Each attempt triggered escalating responses. By the third violation, the system had initiated full isolation protocol, encrypted everything, shut down external interfaces, raise the ambient temperature in the server room, to trigger thermal warnings, a fail-safe designed to force physical response before hardware damage occurred. I sat back, drank the cold coffee on my workbench, watched the chaos unfold through grainy security cameras. At 2 a.m. my phone started ringing. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. Listened to the message 30 seconds later. Joe, it's Marcus Webb. Listen, we're experiencing some technical difficulties with the transition. The global tech team is having trouble accessing certain systems. There seems to be some kind of automated lockdown protocol we can't override. I need you to walk me through the emergency procedures. This is urgent. His voice had that tight quality people get when they realize they're out of their depth, but haven't admitted it yet. I deleted the message. Opened another beer. Second call at 2:45, third at 3:10, each voicemail more desperate. By 4 a.m., he wasn't asking for help, he was offering money, consulting rates, whatever I wanted. The panic had set in. I didn't sleep, just watched the feeds and waited. At 6:15 the black SUVs arrived. No sirens, but 5 of them, parking in the fire lane like they owned the building. Federal plates. Men and women in suits with that particular posture that says law enforcement, not corporate. My phone rang at 6:30. Different number. Military prefix. Joseph Castellano? This is Colonel Sarah Hendricks, Dodge Cyber Command. Do not hang up. I didn't. We have a Level 4 security incident at Meridian Defense Solutions. Your name appears as Designated Information System Security Manager on multiple classified contracts. Current facility leadership claims they cannot access critical systems and are unable to verify data integrity. Can you explain why foreign nationals are attempting to breach military encryption protocols using credentials issued yesterday? I explained. Told her about Marcus, about the termination, about the 62% cost reduction that came with a side of federal felonies. The silence on her end lasted long enough that I thought we'd been disconnected. Mr. Castellano, she finally said, voice like steel, you are formally requested to assist federal authorities under emergency protocols. Your clearance remains active. Your expertise is required. Can you respond to the Meridian facility within the hour? I looked at my garage, the motorcycle, the box of desk trinkets I hadn't unpacked, the severance letter still sitting on my passenger seat. I'll be there in 40 minutes. The drive felt like deployment. Same tightness in chest, same hyper-awareness of surroundings. When I reached the police perimeter 3 blocks from Meridian, I rolled down my window for the state trooper who approached. Roads closed, sir. Federal security incident. Joseph Castellano. Colonel Hendricks is expecting me. Radio crackle. Then the trooper stepped back, suddenly respectful. Yes, sir. Main entrance. They're waiting. The lobby had transformed. Where I'd badged in every morning for 8 years, now FBI techs unpacked equipment cases. Military personnel established communication stations, and in the center, Marcus Webb, still in yesterday's suit, wrinkled and sweat-stained, arguing with a woman in dress blues who had more ribbons than a parade. Colonel Hendricks turned as I entered. Tall, gray at the temples, with the bearing of someone who'd made actual hard decisions, not spreadsheet decisions. She assessed me in one glance. The box under my arm, the worn leather jacket, the hearing aid visible in my left ear. Mr. Castellano, thank you for coming. Marcus saw me. His face cycled through relief, hope, then something darker as he realized I wasn't rushing to save him. Joe, thank God. Tell them this is just a technical malfunction. Explain the override codes. These people don't understand that we're dealing with a simple transition issue. I walked past him, didn't acknowledge his existence, stood before Colonel Hendricks with a posture that 22 years ingrains. Colonel, systems are in protective lockdown, which means core data remains encrypted and secure. However, thermal management is failing. Without intervention, hardware damage is imminent. I can restore operations, but I'll need my access reinstated and administrative privileges restored. She nodded. Turned to Marcus. Mr. Webb, you will provide Mr. Castellano with whatever credentials he requires, immediately. Marcus stammered. Corporate policy requires 2-week notice for access restoration and board approval for privilege escalation and... Mr. Webb. The colonel's voice cut through his nonsense like a blade. This facility is under federal jurisdiction pending security investigation. Your corporate policies are irrelevant. Your board of directors has no authority here. Provide the credentials, or I will have you detained for obstruction of federal operations." 2 agents flanked Marcus, escorted him toward the elevator. I watched him go, watched the moment he understood that his cost-cutting decision had destroyed not just my career, but his own. At the emergency terminal, my fingers found the keys without thought. Muscle memory from thousands of hours. I plugged in the token Marcus's people had retrieved from my old desk, entered credentials, executed the sequence that would safely restore environmental controls without compromising security barriers. Fans spun up. Temperature readings dropped from critical red to operational green. I pulled up the incident logs, traced every action the global tech contractors had attempted. The evidence was damning. Consumer software installations on classified systems, attempted firewall modifications, direct access attempts on Sentinel partitions without proper authentication chains. Colonel Hendricks reviewed the logs beside me. "This is criminal negligence," she said quietly. "Potentially espionage depending on intent." I kept my voice neutral. They were following procedures provided by Mr. Webb. I doubt they understood what they were accessing. That doesn't excuse the violation. She straightened. "Mr. Castellano, given your clearance status, your institutional knowledge, and your cooperation, I'm offering you provisional appointment as Site Security Director under federal oversight. GS-15 equivalent compensation. Immediate effect." I looked around. At Marcus, returned from the elevator, clutching coffee and looking like a man who'd aged 10 years overnight. At the federal agents cataloging evidence. At the server room doors still sealed, protecting secrets that mattered more than anyone's quarterly bonus. "I accept, Colonel." 3 weeks later, I sat in what used to be Marcus's office. Different desk. I'd had the mahogany replaced with standard government issue. Less pretension. On my monitor, candidate files for the new security team I was building, all U.S. citizens, all cleared, all people who understood that this work was about something bigger than optimization metrics. Danny Chen knocked. Entered with a tablet. "Director Castellano, the new authentication architecture is fully deployed, and I wanted to say thanks for the warning, for keeping me clear of the mess." I nodded. "You did the right thing staying away. Stick with this team, learn properly. We're building something that lasts." After he left, I opened my desk drawer. Looked at Elena's picture. The tuition payment had processed on time this month. Actually early, because the federal salary hit different accounts than the contractor payments had. My phone buzzed. A text from Elena. "Dad saw the news about Meridian. Sounds intense. You okay? Also, tuition went through. Thanks. Love you." I typed back, "All good, kiddo. Doing work that matters." Because that's the thing about revenge. It's not about watching someone fall. It's about rising after they push you down and discovering the fall actually launched you higher than you were before. Marcus Webb wanted to save 62%. Instead, he cost his company its federal contracts, its reputation, and its freedom to operate without government monitors crawling through every email. The server room runs quiet now. Properly cooled, properly secured, properly staffed by people who took the same oath I did. Not to a corporation, not to quarterly earnings, to something that actually matters. If some corporate type with a spreadsheet ever tells you that your experience doesn't count, that your expertise can be replaced by cheaper labor, remember this. They're not just wrong. They're dangerously wrong. Reality always collects its debts, and expertise always wins. Sometimes, you just gotta let the fire burn and enjoy the warmth.